Total Sports Zone. All sports, all action, one zone.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a situation that's really reached a boiling point. The high-stakes standoff between former top prospect Jonathan Kuminga and the Golden State Warriors. You've got this clash of timelines and, it feels like a trade isn't just possible, it's pretty much inevitable.
And let's just dive right into the deep end with this one. Check out this quote from league sources. Now, this isn't just some random rumor or speculation, okay? The word is, from inside the organization, that the Jonathan Kuminga era in Golden State, it's over. That's it. It's setting the stage for a really dramatic exit.
So that's really the big question, right? How on earth did a former number 7 overall pick get to a point of no return with a championship dynasty? I mean, this is a story about huge potential, a ton of frustration bubbling under the surface, and, well, a relationship that seems totally broken. So let's unpack it. Let's see how we got to this point.
Okay, so at the very heart of all this drama, you've got the Kuminga-Kerr stare-down. It really boils down to the dynamic between the player and his legendary coach, Steve Kerr. On one side, you have this young, super athletic, explosive forward just bursting with talent. And on the other, you've got this established championship system and a coach who, demands things be done a very specific way.
And look, this didn't just pop up out of nowhere. This wasn't some sudden blow-up. The reporting says this frustration has been building for over a year. Yeah, a whole year. Kuminga and his people have apparently been really unhappy with his role, his minutes, how he's just been bouncing in and out of the game plan. It's been a long time coming.
So all that simmering tension, well, it's officially boiled over. Kuminga hasn't played a single minute for the Warriors since way back on December 18th. I mean, he's been completely out of the rotation, basically nailed to the bench for weeks. When you do that to a valuable young player, you're sending a message to the entire league. This situation, it's just not working anymore.
And all of this is building up to what really feels like an inevitable breakup. You can just see it coming. At this point, the conversation isn't about how do we fix this anymore. No, it's shifted to how do we find an exit strategy that works for everybody.
And here's a really critical piece of the puzzle. This isn't just Kuminga demanding a trade. The reporting makes it clear that there's a mutual understanding. Both the Warriors front office and Kuminga's camp have looked at this situation and basically said, yeah, this isn't working. They both agree a trade needs to happen. It's time to move on.
This timeline really lays out how fast things are moving now. So you've got over a year of frustration building up, right? Then, bam, December 18th, he plays his last game. But now you have these two massive dates coming up that are forcing everybody's hand. First, January 15th, that's when he's officially eligible to be traded. And then the big one, February 5th, the NBA trade deadline. You can practically hear the clock ticking on this thing.
Okay, so a huge piece of any trade talk is always the contract, right? The money. Kuminga signed a 2-year extension back in September for about $46.8 million. Now, in the grand scheme of NBA contracts, that's actually pretty team-friendly. It makes him a really attractive, manageable piece for another team to take on.
But there's a little wrinkle in there. His contract has what's called a trade kicker, a 15% one to be exact. So what's that? It's basically a bonus he gets paid just for being traded. This means any team that gets him will have to fork over a little more, bumping up the total value. It's not a deal breaker, but it's definitely a detail that front offices are paying attention to.
So, okay, both sides are ready to make a deal. We know the contract situation. So the big question now is, who's actually on the other end of the phone? Let's get into the trade market and see which teams might be in the running for the young forward.
So who's actually interested in acquiring Jonathan Kuminga? Well, you have to remember, despite all this drama, we're talking about a young guy with just incredible athletic potential. So yeah, there's absolutely a market for him. Let's break down some of the teams that have been mentioned.
And it's a pretty interesting list of potential suitors. You've got teams like the Sacramento Kings and the New Orleans Pelicans who have apparently been interested since last summer. But there are others kicking the tires too. The Chicago Bulls, the Portland Trail Blazers, even the Dallas Mavericks are supposedly in the mix.
Right, but a trade is a two-way street, isn't it? This isn't just about shipping Kuminga out. The Warriors are in win-now mode with Steph Curry. They desperately need to get something back that helps them right now. So what's on Golden State's shopping list?
And their priorities are super clear. If you look at what they want versus what they don't want, they are not out here trying to land another big all-star. No, they have a very specific type of player in mind. They want a wing who can shoot threes and play defense, that classic 3-and-D guy. And they need someone who can make an impact immediately, not another project for the future.
So based on that shopping list, a few names have popped up in the rumor mill.
You've got guys like Herb Jones and Trey Murphy III from the Pelicans. Both of them fit that 3-and-D mold perfectly. Then there's a name like Michael Porter Jr. from the Nuggets. He's a fantastic scorer, but, getting him would be a whole other challenge. But here's the catch, right? It's always easier said than done. The players who fit the Warriors' needs the best are, well, really hard to get. The Pelicans' asking price for guys like Jones is reportedly sky high, and trying to make a deal for a guy like Michael Porter Jr., well, that's incredibly complicated. So yeah, finding the right trade partner is turning out to be a real challenge. So, this brings us to the final act. What happens next? You've got all these moving parts, what Kuminga wants, what the team needs, a really tricky trade market. It's all coming down to the wire. And that wire is the NBA trade deadline on February 5th. That is the hard stop. There's no wiggle room. After that day, teams can't make any more trades until the offseason. So the Warriors front office either has to make a move now or they are stuck with this whole situation until the summer. The pressure is absolutely on.
And this quote really says it all, doesn't it? The Warriors are determined to make a move, and Kuminga is ready for a fresh start. I mean, that perfectly captures why a deal is so likely. You've got a team trying to save its season and a player who is just desperate for a new beginning. That shared motivation on both sides. That's what makes this whole thing feel so inevitable.
And so that leaves us with the million-dollar question, doesn't it? Will a trade actually fix the Warriors, or is this just the first move in a much bigger shakeup? Trading Kuminga might solve one headache, sure, but are the team's issues way bigger than just one unhappy player? We'll have to see if this is the move that gets them back on track, or if it's just the first domino to fall for a legendary dynasty. Thanks for watching.